Hello everyone and welcome to this video from LicenseQ. This is the monthly licensing update that I want to talk you through. We'll go as per usual through the product terms, see what changes have been made to the product terms, and then additionally discuss some of the latest news that came out of the Microsoft licensing front. So I've already put the product terms up on the screen. As you can see, for the product terms, this has been a quiet month. We expect next month to be very different in that regards, but more on that later. Just three changes. So for audio services, we can see that they have rebranded Teams Rooms Standard and Premium to Teams Rooms Basic and Pro. That probably aligns better to what they're trying to achieve. And you can see in the product terms as well that they've indeed removed the old reference and now call it Microsoft Teams Rooms Pro. And I'm not seeing basic, so that must be an omission on their end, but it should be basic, pro, and you have pro without audio conferencing, which is a product that you can also get. Privacy and security terms, they updated the Office 365 services geographic areas to include Qatar under the location of customer data at rest for core online services. It's a little change here, but a big impact, meaning that your Office 365 services can now be stored in the Qatari data center, which is, I assume, a new data center that Microsoft has currently released. Then finally, big changes in the hardware solution part of the Azure page. So for storage array, Azure Data Box, Azure Stack Edge, and Azure Stack Hub ruggedized terms, they have removed most of the hardware language and decided to focus it solely around the use rights. So when you look at this, what they have done is remove massive red sections from their respective segments. These were mainly around hardware required terms and not the use rights per se. And what you're left over with are the use rights for these solutions. And all the terms, as you can see at the start of most of these segments, they have moved that the terms for the hardware basically to their separate page. If you follow this, you will arrive at the page where it will state the Azure Stack Edge additional hardware terms. Similarly with Databox, for instance, as well. It has its own page referencing Databox hardware additional terms. So that's it for the product terms. Now, big news came out a few days ago. A blog post by Nicole Dezen, however you pronounce it, Chief Partner Officer and Corporate Vice President for Global Partner Solutions. And she discusses new licensing benefits that Microsoft is releasing that will make bringing workloads and licenses to partners' clouds easier. So this has been discussed before. Brad Smith has held a conference somewhere in the EU in the not so distant past. And out of that came a blog post that they saw that they were lacking in certain fronts, that they had to make certain changes. And this is the initial setup of those changes. So this is the official announcement as to what Microsoft is going to change. And these changes are going into effect on October 1st, 2022. So exactly 1 month from now. Microsoft will implement major revisions and upgrades to its outsourcing and hosting terms that will benefit partners and customers globally. With these changes, it is exciting to see the potential customer benefits that will enable new scenarios for how they can license and run workloads with infrastructure outsources. Additionally, she's happy to share the Cloud Solution Provider Program will have a new program option that enables participating partners to more effectively sell hosted solutions to customers, either with licenses included or to customers that are already licensed. So these will have three primary goals: make it easier for customers to bring their software to the partner's cloud. That was a specific ask from many my outsourcers using Microsoft products, ensure partners have access to the products necessary to sell cost-effective solutions that customers want, and to empower partners to build hosted solutions with speed and scale. So what exactly is changing? And I've been on the SAM Expert live that the Alex hosted a few days ago, and we discussed many of these topics already. I just wanted to highlight it again for the audience of License Queue. And doing this monthly licensing update is very important that we discuss the right things. They will add more flexibility and options for software outsourcing. So a flexible virtualization benefit will be added, and this is with capital letters. So I assume Microsoft will have a definition of what a flexible virtualization benefit is. And this will expand customer choice when outsourcing. Customer with software assurance or subscription licenses will be able to use their own licensed software to build and or install solutions and run them on any outsourcers infrastructure except hosted providers. Now, initially when I read this and I got to this point, I thought, great, Microsoft is going to allow its customers to use Windows Server licenses with software assurance and give them license mobility. Anyway, that's not what this means. There's no reference that this is going to count for Windows Server. As they're specifically stating, Windows Server will be under the SPLA agreement, but it will be for SQL Server, which already has this license mobility through software assurance, but also through Microsoft 365 apps and more. So I'm very interested to see what this and more is going to be about. But basically, Microsoft will make it easier to run Microsoft 365 apps from your service provider or your outsources data center. Good news. Very keen on learning what flexible virtualization is, but I assume we will learn that as of next month. So bear with us as well. Secondly, introducing new Windows Server virtual core licensing. This is a part of, again, the flexible virtualization benefit. They want to offer Windows Server in a license model that is compatible with shared server outsourcing. To that effect, we will introduce an option to license Windows Server on a virtual core basis. Windows Server is licensed by a physical core, which means customers must have access to the physical server hardware to ensure that they have enough Windows Server licenses to cover all physical cores in the machine. With virtual core licensing, customers can elect to license Windows Server by the number of virtual cores they are using in virtual machines, making Windows Server easier to license when virtualizing or outsourcing. Now, I had a discussion with Alex on this as well. Alex was stating that it might mean Azure hybrid benefit, but then the hybrid benefit for outsourcers as well, that it would extend it to outsourcers. However, I think that they're specifically stating the ability to license on a virtual core basis. It might even mean a new licensing vehicle for Windows Server, where you can buy virtual cores that you might use in your outsourcers data center. Simplifying how customers can virtualize Windows 10 or Windows 11. And I think this is quite a big benefit that Microsoft is granting, especially if you are in an industry where you have a lot of shared devices, for instance. So let's go into it. Any user with Microsoft 365 F3, E3, or E5 will be able to virtualize Windows 10 or 11 on their own servers or on outsourcer servers, except listed providers, regardless of whether the user's primary device has a qualified operating system. Today, Microsoft 365 users without a primary device with a qualifying operating system must also acquire VDA add-on license to virtualize Windows 10 or 11. After October 1st, 2022, they are eliminating that requirement for F3, E3, and E5. So what this means, there's a lot of scenarios where an organization is licensing mainly Microsoft 365 F3 for shared computer usage, but that computer is using a qualified operating system like Windows 11 Pro. As such, if you want to virtualize that, and many do in either VDI or through server-based computing, in the VDI scenario, you would need a VDA add-on license. There was a requirement for Microsoft because in F3 you don't have the right of what you have within your Windows E3 license, for instance, where you were granted the VDA rights as a software assurance benefit. Now, I have seen a lot of healthcare institutions like hospitals licensing a lot of F3 with the need to also purchase VDA subscription licenses in order to run their virtualized desktop infrastructure. Now, Microsoft is stating that they will remove this requirement. So many of these hospitals that currently are licensing F3 in combination with VDA can, at the next anniversary or at your renewal, remove the VDA licenses from the contract, potentially saving hundreds of thousands of dollars. We will be discussing this with our clients, but hopefully if this is ringing a bell for you, you will do the same with your clients. Then on to the next point, enabling sales of longer-term hosted solutions. During our discussion with cloud providers, we also heard a clear request from Microsoft to enable them to sell solutions with longer-term price stability for a customer. To address that ask, Microsoft will enhance the cloud solution provider program so that partners can sell customers either 1 or 3 year subscriptions for many products, including software like Windows Server, SQL Server. We're also adding more monthly billing options in the CSP program for many of our 1-year offers. So the way software subscription licenses in CSP worked, where you pay upfront a 3-year term, and then you're allowed to use that software for that period of time. However, this is very rigid, and I think a lot of blowback came from the fact that you can now sign up for a 1-year term for your cloud subscriptions in CSP, but not for your software. And if you wanted to do this, it was an upfront cost out. And I think Microsoft is saying here that they will make it possible to also sign up for a 1-year term for your software licenses, but instead of paying that upfront, they make it easier for you to also do monthly billing, and that would ideally align with the cloud subscriptions that you're buying. Empowering partner to build hosted solutions with new hosting program. The Cloud Solution Provider Hoster is a new program that will enable participating CSP partners to pre-build hosted desktop and server solutions that they can sell to customers along with licenses in CSP or to customers that already have licenses. Customer bring your own license to partner solutions. Microsoft customer agreement with the CSP hoster and proof of license for bring your own license will be required from the customer. And partners in this program will not need to acquire distinct media and keys from each end customer to deploy their solution. Instead, partners will be able to access a catalog of Microsoft software. CSP Hoster is an expanded hosting program that replaces the QMTH program. At launch later this year, this program will be limited to CSP direct bill partners only, but we look forward to expanded program eligibility over time. So what I read here is that they're trying to extend the CSP program to align more with the SPLA program, as with the tied to the previous point as well. So there's a new CSP hoster program that you can sign up to, which allows you to sell your solutions to your end customer, use their own licenses if they have it to lower the cost of your own solution. And this opens the world of Microsoft to a lot more partners for end customers of Microsoft. So previously you were probably looking for a SPLA partner, but it doesn't need to be a SPLA partner anymore. It can be now a CSP hoster partner. And the question remains, who will be granted this partner status? Is it anyone that signs up to CSP? Do you need to have certain qualifications for this? What are these qualifications going to be? Is this going to compete with the SPLA program? Is this going to make the world more competitive? Will this drive down partner margin cost for you as the end customer of Microsoft? These are all questions that are popping up in my mind when I read this. I'm very curious to see how Microsoft will put this in the market in the coming weeks. And finally, SPLA program update regarding outsourcing. So I always stated that Microsoft might preempt itself on eventually getting rid of the SPLA program and moving everything to CSP. And right now they're saying they're not going to do that. But if I distill this information correctly, I think by opening up the CSP program the way that they're doing now, they're bringing it in line with SPLA. So everything that used to be possible in SPLA would also be possible in CSP. So eventually you might see many partners, instead of sticking to the SPLA program, moving to the CSP program, and the SPLA program slowly emptying out and maybe even dying out. But that's just my assumption. Proof is going to be in the pudding. So the SPLA program update regarding outsourcing. At its inception, SPLA was intended to allow partners to offer hosted services from their own data centers, not for managed service providers buying through SPLA to host others' data centers. They're making changes starting October 2022 to better align with the program's intent and with other commercial licensing programs. To strengthen the hosted ecosystem by focusing the program on breadth hosters and encourage traditional outsourcers and data center providers, we are changing the SPLA terms to remove the ability to outsource SPLA licenses on listed provider data centers. And this is big news. So traditional outsourcers and data center providers will benefit from this change, and it will help foster the hosting partner ecosystem. Any SPLA partner impacted by this change has until September 30th, 2025. So in 3 years' time from when this announcement, when these changes will take effect, to transition from a listed provider for SPLA outsourced hosting, or to license directly from the listed provider outside of their SPLA. So this is big news for current SPLA partners. If you're a SPLA partner and you're using one of the listed providers, that being, they're listed below here, Alibaba, Amazon Web Services, Google, or Microsoft, changes will need to be made. So this will move the option to bill an all-up product to your end customer into something where they will need to receive a bill from that listed provider and then separately a bill for your services. So this is quite an impactful message that Microsoft is giving to all the SPLA partners that they have. If you're using Amazon, Alibaba, Google, or Microsoft to host your solutions, you will going to need to be invoicing them for their listed provider usage separately from the services that you deliver on top of that. This was also captured, condensed on the Microsoft licensing blog. So what I just discussed can be read here as well. So also here, Microsoft is stating they will implement significant upgrades to our outsourcing and hosting terms that will benefit customers. Read more below about what we're doing to give customers more flexibility. They'll introduce the flexible virtualization benefit, the option for customers with software assurance or subscription license to license Windows Server on a virtual core basis. Under this model, customers can buy licenses for only the virtual cores they need, subject to a per VM minimum, without being tied to a physical number of cores on the server. With the virtual core licensing option, customers can license Windows Server by the number of virtual cores they are using in virtual machines, making Windows Server easier to license. So also here you see that you might get an additional licensing model or motion where you can buy the Windows Server virtual core license. I still think that will be the case. Not saying that here yet, but a little bit crisper than in the blog post. Easier to license virtualize Windows 10 or 11 by eliminating the VDA add-on license requirement for F3, E3, and E5. Again, big news. And under the flexible virtualization benefit, customers can work with partners in the CSP program to get pre-built hosted desktop and server solutions, and either bring their own license or get the license from a partner. Microsoft customer agreement with a participating partner, and proof of license that you are bringing your own license will be required to run these hosted solutions. And finally, customers will have the choice of 1 and 3 year subscriptions for many products, including Windows Server, remote desktop service, and SQL Server through partners in the Cloud Solution Provider Program to offer price stability with long-term subscriptions. And finally, they end with these changes, customers have additional choices to deploy their solutions with more flexibility. For additional information, you can talk with your Microsoft rep or get in touch with your cloud provider partner and talk about your hosting needs. To find a cloud provider, they're already telling you where to go. So this is a lot more condensed, a little bit more crisper language here as well. I do think these are massive changes, and these massive changes can have big impacts on the entire ecosystem of Microsoft. Like Alex said, well, we'll definitely be making updates to our training material because this will have an impact on that as well. So looking forward to October 1st, seeing what's going to be happening at that moment in time. Until then, I'll be signing off right now. I want to thank you for watching. If you're watching this on YouTube, please like this video. It'll greatly help us get more visibility around that platform. And if you're finding us through LinkedIn, do also leave a like for us or share this message. If you read this through the newsletter or didn't read it through the newsletter, you can still sign up. And if you already did, thank you for signing up to our newsletter. Thank you very much, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.